Welcome to Literary AF Podcast.
Hello, you're listening to the Literary AF Podcast. I'm Danny.
And Arlene.
And today we're going to be talking about Immortals After Dark.
Yay, more
The
monsters!
penultimate Immortals After Dark series roundup.
Yes.
Because we'll do Monroe when that comes out.
Yeah, but I have officially now joined hashtag Monroe Watch. Is that right?
That's a thing that I've been doing. I've been saying hashtag Monroe Watch.
It's a thing now.
It's a thing that
We've
I started.
decided.
Yeah.
It's Danny started it.
I think actually
now,
Fated
so.
Mates may have mentioned it, but they haven't actually used the tag, so...
Okay, well, I'll use it, and eventually maybe it'll catch on.
Monroe Watch.
But it's real for me, and I'm excited and worried, but mainly excited. Also, I would say a little bit disappointed that I don't get a book immediately about the Morior? How do you say that word?
The Morior.
Those O's are an actual... That's an actual letter in an alphabet that English does not use, and I don't know how to pronounce them. Like, I know that... And now, I'm sorry for anyone who is also interested in linguistics and books, but... I don't know the names of any of these letters, but, like, the I's with the 2 dots over it, and, like, I'm sure they have a name.
Oh, they probably do. I could look it up, except I have a mechanical keyboard, so it would just be nothing but clicky clicks the whole time. So.
Those are satisfying. Maybe somebody out there wants a little ASMR with their book podcast.
Now we're looking up the weird little I with the dots on top. But, the audiobook usually just... ignores those little...
Oh, okay. Yeah.
If the pronunciation is different, they don't change it.
Okay, because I think that, like, the names are supposed to be a little different, like Neeks and, like, Goerlov or something like that. Like Torbjorn from Overwatch. And, but anyways, there's... But anyways, I'm just going to pronounce them as I have been in my head.
The same audiobook narrator has done all of the books.
Yeah.
And he always pronounces them, like... Morior and Nyx and...
I trust him.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I assume he's got some inside knowledge on that.
I'd hope so.
I'd hope so. I mean, he pronounces, like, Woeed is how he pronounces Rydstrom and Cadion's last name.
Okay.
Which seems like a really weird pronunciation to just pick for yourself.
Yeah,
And he uses it over multiple books.
Okay.
So...
Well, we'll go with that.
I assume he has insider knowledge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, my point was, I'm sad that I won't get a book about them next.
You don't know that.
I don't know that. But I also just want to know what happens with poor Monroe.
Yes.
So
McCreeve came out like 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a while.
That cliff has been left hanging for 5 years, so...
He's dangling.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens there. But unfortunately, this is not about that.
Nope.
We don't have a time machine, and we haven't read the book yet.
Nope.
And, yeah, so I guess Dark Skye is where we are.
Yes.
And that was Melanthe and...
Thronos Talos.
Thank you, because the name was gone. That was not in my head, but Thronos Talos,
yes.
The
Prince of Skye Hall.
Reckoner Knight, Prince of Skye Hall.
Yeah. Like, the most Skyrim name out of all of these names.
Really extra.
Yeah.
And he was also really extra.
He is.
But in the weird kind of oppressed and ridiculous way, and I really appreciated that. I went into this book, I think, expecting it to be a little different. Just, for some context, I have spent months listening to Danny rant about these books before I read them.
Yes.
So I kind of have, and perhaps unwisely, have formed ideas of what I expect these books to be in my head before I read them. So sometimes they are very different, and other times they're not so much. And this one, it wasn't very different, but I had really hoped that they were gonna play on a little bit more of... I don't even know what to call it. The extremely almost Puritan traditions and stuff that the Reckoners have just as a people.
So this book kind of picks up, like, for the last couple books, they keep jumping back to the same point in time. Like, McCreeve jumps back to where the island blows up, basically.
Yeah.
And then Dark Skye also jumps back to that same point where you saw Melanthe get, like, pulled away by him.
Yes.
And she's got this
torque
on her neck, which, like, mutes all of her powers, basically. And then this angel just, like, grabs her and then takes off with her. And
Gargoyle.
that's the last...
Gargoyle angel.
He's, yeah.
Dragon Man.
Monster. He grabs her and takes off with her, and that's the last you hear of her for, like, since Malcolm's book.
Yeah, 3 books.
Like, 3 whole books went on without hearing about what happened to these guys. And,
yeah, he basically kidnaps her.
He basically kidnaps her. Yeah.
Haha, you're mine. I finally found you. Now we're still on this death island, and I gotta do something about it.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's, like, demons flying in the sky, so he can't just fly away with her. And also he's mangled. Horribly mangled.
Thanks to her.
Yeah.
So he can't, he has a hard time just flying them off to safety, because he can't cross that much water, because sharks.
Yeah.
And he's just a mess.
Because they used to know each other when they were children.
Yeah.
And his people found out about her people, and they murdered her parents. And her response was, because she's I don't know if we talked about this before, but she's like the queen of persuasion. So whenever she tells somebody to do something with her magic, they have to do it.
Yep.
And that's how she kept bringing Sabine back to life when Sabine kept dying. So I might have mentioned this in her book.
Yes.
Like, months ago, but Melanthe basically commands Thronos to jump out the window and not to use his wings.
Yeah, so this little, like, what is he, 11 at that point?
She's like 8 and he's 11 or something.
Yeah, like this little kid just jumps out the window and lands on some rocks and miraculously survives.
But he's like, his wings are all mangled. And
his leg.
And he's, like, because they freeze into their immortality when they're adults, so any damage sustained before that is permanent damage to their body.
Yeah, so
he was a child, so he's fucked up.
Yep.
Pretty bad.
Yep, and he's understandably quite angry about it. But she is also understandably quite angry about the fact that his dad, I believe, or brother... Dad.
It was his dad.
Beheaded
both of her parents.
Yes. I mean, admittedly, then, Melanthe did kill his dad.
Did Melanthe do it, or did Sabine do it?
Oh, oh no, I don't remember. It's been a little while.
Yeah, one of them did it.
Yeah, somebody killed his dad, so, it's just, this is a recipe for a great relationship.
No, they killed Sabine.
And that was
Sabine, the first time Melanthe brought him back to life.
Yeah, yes.
And then Melanthe killed his dad.
Yes.
And then...
threw him out the window.
And then he jumped out the window.
Yeah.
And then, like, time skip 500 years into the future. Now he's got a hell of a grudge, and they're on an island where she has no powers, basically. And...
I also have to say, though, that, like, Melanthe and Sabine's relationship, just because of that... is probably one of A, my favorite, and B, probably the most heart-wrenching relationships in the whole book to me. Melanthe and Sabine. Like, as the sisters, where she's, like, constantly just watching her sister die and having to bring her back. Like, that's a big deal to me. So, the idea that she's gone through all these years, not only watching her sister die over and over and having to bring her back... terrified of these creatures who killed her parents and now want to kill her.
Yeah, because the Reckoners hunt them down for the next 500 years.
Yeah.
And they fly Sabine up tons of feet, and then they just drop her on her head.
Yeah.
And then Melanthe has to bring her back to life, and now Melanthe has a fear of flying.
Yes. Understandably so, again.
Yes.
I felt it was really hard to blame her for anything here, even though I really liked Thronos Talos. I thought he was so ridiculous and awful, and I loved him, but yeah, I think girl was justified not wanting anything to do with that.
Yeah.
Also, we keep on, like, just not talking about how they get off the island. I admit I don't remember.
So, first off, I think Melanthe gets away, and she's, like, walking through the woods, and somebody, like, whips a log at her and knocks her out.
Right, yes!
You don't know who it was in the book at first, but it's pretty easy to guess that it was Nyx.
Yes.
Just whips a log at her and knocks her out, and she gets, taken by some sorcerai.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
The sorcerai who were... who broke out, the evil ones.
Emberine and what's her name? There's two of them.
It's gone now.
Yeah.
Anyways, the sorcerer.
Yeah, there are two sorcerai ladies. Another dude.
Yeah. They open a portal. I believe, don't they?
They are trying to get her to open a portal because she has a power where she can open portals, but she can only do it every so often.
Yes.
And they get her to prove her loyalty to them, and they cut out her tongue.
Right.
Because she has the power of persuasion.
Right.
And they think that if she can't talk, she can't persuade them.
Yes.
So they cut out her tongue and tell her to open up the portal. And what she actually, you then find out that she can still persuade, but through telekinesis. And she persuades them all to go to sleep, I think.
Yes.
And Thronos was also grabbed by them, and they stuck him in a rock cage, because the sorcerer lady, whose name I cannot remember, controls the earth.
Yes.
And he's in a rock cage, and she knocks out all the other sorcerai, and then she makes a portal to get out of there. And then Thronos breaks out of his cage, and he kills the male sorcerai because he was super jealous, because this male sorcerai had a relationship with Melanthe
previously, and Thronos just,
he cannot handle.
No.
So then Melanthe opens a portal, and they both jump through the portal.
I feel like we should also mention that Thronos being jealous of the fact that Melanthe, the girl who has sex with anybody that she wants to, he has a huge problem with this, and it comes up so often. All he does is just complain about it for the longest time, and this is also upsetting to her. I mean, for obvious reasons, like, back off, dude.
So, they end up, because her teleporting powers are unstable. Because what was it? She's not very good at it.
Yeah.
And, she teleports them to the water world?
Yeah, they go through a few different portals at this point, but, like, yeah.
No, it's the dragon one.
Pandemonium.
Yeah, is that?
Yep.
Yeah.
They go to hell.
Basically, yeah, they go to hell.
And this is the part that really kind of, I was so interested and then kind of disappointed, where they come across this cave filled with what essentially amounts to a dragon's hoard of gold.
Yeah.
And they make some connections within there to... Thronos kind of looks like a dragon-y kind of guy.
Yeah, because up to this point, it's implied that they're like angels.
Yes.
He insists that he's not a demon. Melanthe calls him a demon just to piss him off.
Yes.
And they get to this dragon horde, and he's got, like, their scales match. Yeah. And their horns match and stuff like that.
Their wings are similar.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so in my mind, I'm like... He's a dragon man. Dragon man! He's a dragon man! And I was really excited about this, but apparently later on it's kind of... he's more demon-y than that. Yeah. So that was a little disappointing in that respect, because dragon man versus demon man. I mean, I love demons and I think they're great, but dragon man would have been very unique. I mean, they're still kind of unique to begin with, just their appearance, and also... Them as a society, I feel like the Reckoners are super unique compared to any other demon society that she's really thrown at us.
Because they're basically just Mormons.
I mean...
You laugh, but...
I mean, you're not...
They're Skye Mormons.
You're not wrong. The Skye Mormons.
The Skye Mormons.
They have sex through a blanket.
They do.
It happens. Please read this book because I don't want to go into any more detail than that because it is as ridiculous as it sounds.
They have a sheet with a hole in it that has been prepared for...
Having sex
the first time after they get married.
Yep.
So they end up in Pandemonium.
Yep.
And they have, like, this cool moment where they're escaping the dragons. Because she disrupted their horde. And they're, like, scaling the side of a mountain together.
Yeah.
And they're walking along, like, a thin ledge. And, like, in order to blend into the mountain, he wraps his wings around her. And I thought it was a really cool moment.
I agree. I liked their time in hell.
Yeah.
I thought it was all good bonding stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they end up, like, I guess, I would consider it more like the mainland type area, because they're on, like, the sea up to this point. And there's, like, a war zone happening with 2 factions of demons. Mm-hmm. And each demon has a portal. It's on their side of the... It's like a capture the flag.
Yes.
It is a demon capture the flag, but for an eternity.
Yep.
Where each team has a portal, and each team has the key to the other portal. And somebody has to cross the fields and get the key and then come back to get the portal out of hell.
It honestly sounds kind of fun. Like, I mean, if they weren't trapped there for thousands of years,
forever,
killing each other, then, I mean, this might be a fun game to participate in.
It's literally just capture the flag.
Yeah.
So they're like, well, we gotta get one of those keys, and then we can get in the portal, and we can get out of there.
But Melanthe being so sorry is like, no, but I could just have both of these golden keys, so they could just both be mine.
There's also the forest that they end up running through. That's full of, like, these signs that have old demonish on them.
Yes.
And Thronos can read them. And he's like, I don't know why I can read this. It's totally not because I'm part demon. It's totally... I'm totally not a demon. For some reason, I can read these demon signs.
Yeah.
And there's, like, some cool traps. Just, like, you cross the border, and then there's these bees that are just, like, buzzing so loud that you can't... Your mind's gonna basically...
Super bees, also tar quicksand type stuff.
Tar quicksand, which is one of actually my favorite moments in that book, where Thronos crosses over the line and he ends up in, like, a Groundhog Day situation.
Yes.
And...
Yes!
Yeah.
Groundhog Day was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Melanthe gets both keys from both sides after splitting up with Thronos. And she just walked in there and she's like, give me your keys. And she just persuades them. And then she gets the keys. And then she goes to the other side and she's like, give me your key. And they give her the key. And then she just walks out, like, swinging the keys on her fingers. Like, yeah, I just did this. And then she fights with Thronos. And...
Naturally.
Of course.
They spend a lot of time fighting.
They fight
as usual.
Constantly. And he ends up... There's hellhounds.
That attack
them. And they're running. And then... Melanthe, she
dies horribly.
Yeah. The first one is like a boulder falls on her, right? Yep. And she gets stuck in the tar, and the cliff, like, starts crumbling, and this huge boulder falls in the tree. And there's, like, a really long segment where Thronos is, like, ripping off his legs to try to save her from this boulder, because he's stuck in the tar. And each time it says, like, the boulder snaps down a couple more branches, and it snaps down a couple more branches, and then it just kills her.
Yeah. And
then Thronos, like, wakes up. And then Thronos is running from the Hellhounds, and Melanthe is running directly into the tar and under the tree again.
Yep. So, I think it continues 3 or 4 times before he finally, like...
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a trigger where he had to be like, oh, no, wait, I actually care about her, and I'm not just trying to get my revenge on her.
Yeah.
And that's when he kind of snaps out of it and wakes up lying on the road,
writhing, like having a seizure, yeah. And Melanthe's like, what the hell is the problem? Yes. Thronos, wake up. And I thought that was, like, really cool.
Yes.
The first time she died, I was like, what the fuck just happened? And then it, like, oh, I see what's going on.
Yeah, so. That was pretty good. And a good growing moment for him.
Where do they go from there? They go into...
It's another world and then another world.
So they go to Feverous next, which is...
Sexy Time World.
They think it's Feverous, where you go in and you basically just get really hot and then you just want to bang everybody and everything.
Sounds like a party, honestly.
Yeah. And Melanthe, I think, says she's been there once before, and she almost had sex with a gnome, and then she had her servants, like, pull her out, because she had tied, like, a rope around herself so that she could be pulled out when it was too late.
Save me before I stay here forever.
Yeah, basically. And then, so they start getting dirty, and then Nyx shows up.
Yes.
Nyx can just do that. She just pops in wherever she feels like it. And she's like, you guys aren't amphibious. You should stop this. You guys are... She whispers it to Thronos.
And Thronos snaps out of it.
And Thronos has to snap her out of it, because they're actually inside the belly of a monster that's making them see what they want.
Yeah.
So that they don't want to leave.
Yeah, it's essentially, it's eating them slowly, and it's giving them these weird, pleasant hallucinations.
Yeah.
So it can just digest them slowly for years.
Yes. And then Thronos wakes her up, and then they leave. And then they end up in the water area.
Yeah.
Where they get intercepted by some guys who work for Nereus, who's like the god of the sea or whatever.
Yeah. Who gets mentioned a few times, actually, briefly in Lothair, even. Just
yeah.
Because I'll take any chance to mention him I can get.
Lothair, like, steals, or he goes down there and he demands something from him. Mm-hmm. Some kind of herb that I can't remember what he wanted it for.
Me either.
But
whatever. Yuna's here. Yeah. So, yeah, they end up in the water world. And their plan here is essentially, let's just be really cool to him, and he'll just let us go if we're down to party.
Yeah. So they just party with them.
Yeah.
Except that he ends up knocking them out.
He really wants to bang Melanthe.
Really bad, yeah.
Yeah. And so he's got to get Thronos out of the way and Melanthe into his bed. And he does that by knocking them out.
Yes.
And then dragging Melanthe off to his bedroom and throwing Thronos into a pile of nymphs.
Yes.
A literal pile of nymphs.
They're both in piles of nymphs at that point, because Nereus's bed is just, like, nymphs.
That seems really uncomfortable.
Yes.
Both for them and for him.
I remember them describing Nereus, like, the defining characteristic that he has is just a huge dick.
That peen, though.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, I remember getting to that part in the audiobook, and I was just like, okay, this is the defining feature of Nereus. He's large, he has a beard, and he has a third leg.
They spend more time describing his penis than his face.
Yeah.
So I take with that what you will. But anyways, Nymph Beds was not a stretch for this man.
So he has Melanthe watch on, like, the TV.
They make a bed. The mysterious ocean TV. I don't know.
It's security cameras. I don't know. He watches, like, he's like,
they make a bet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thronos isn't... He tries to convince Thronos to sleep with the nymphs to prove that he doesn't want Melanthe or something.
It's that he wants... Like, Melanthe is like, nah, he's not gonna fall for that. And Nereus is like, there are so many nymphs. Yeah, he will.
Yeah.
And the bet is that if Thronos has sex with a nymph, then
Melanthe has to have sex with Nereus.
Yes.
And if he doesn't, then they can just leave.
Yeah. And, so that's...
Thronos doesn't have sex with her.
Thronos is a good boy.
Yeah. And then they leave.
Yes.
And then... Where do they go from there? They just go to Skye Hall.
Skye Hall, yeah.
Yeah, Thronos takes her home.
Yep, they go home.
To his city in the clouds where nobody has roofs on top of their houses.
Everybody can hear you bang.
It's just the honor system. I'm not gonna fly over that house.
Yeah.
And I assume that those people just don't bang often enough.
Or loudly.
Because they do it through a sheet.
Yeah,
like, that's not fun.
How adventurous can you get banging through a sheet?
Yeah.
Like, you know, I like how they actually mention in the book, like, hey, you know, like, we shouldn't be loud, we'll just bother people, or, like, that's not a thing that we do. And then they get totally loud. And nobody mentions it, like, yo, what was that noise coming out of fucking Prince Thronos' house last night, be like, I don't know, man, but I'm not gonna say anything.
They mentioned at one point, like, the male Rechners have, like, teeth marks on their arms, where they're, like, biting themselves when they have sex so that they don't make noise.
Which is kind of super hot, I'm not gonna lie, but also, like, guys, please.
Also, the Rechners don't have hot water. They all have cold showers all the time.
Oh, this place was so hard.
And then they get back, and they find out that Thronos' brother was killed by Trahan in Shadow's Claim. And that makes Thronos the king of Skyhall. And that makes Melanthe the queen of Skyhall.
And nobody is thrilled.
No.
Except for Melanthe. Well, actually, she's not even that
She's not really thrilled about it either.
She's still a queen, though, which is kind of cool.
She's queen of Skyhall. And then the Sorcerer show up, because they still think that Thronos has kidnapped Melanthe, and Sabine comes in, and what's her name?
Morgana.
Morgana, just the queen of Sorcerer.
The queen of Sorcerer, yeah. She was from the same book that Tran is from, Shadow's Claim. Yeah. And that's how they figured out how to get there, was through Trahan. Yeah. So they show up, and they're convinced that Melanthe is under their weird control, that she would never go along with this, because the Reckoners have hunted them for so long and terrified her so much. Why would she have ever changed her mind about this guy? Yeah. And Morgana is, she doesn't really give anyone a chance to argue, and it's just like, okay, nah, you guys suck, and you've sucked for so long. Yeah. I'm just gonna wreck your shit.
Yeah, they kidnap Melanthe back, and then they blow up Skyhall. Yep. And then they wipe Thronos' memories of Melanthe. Yeah. They do. And he completely forgets about it.
Too, which is...
Morgana uses the persuasion magic to tell Thronos that he's not going to remember Melanthe. And whenever anybody mentions her, he just gets upset. Yes. And then they kidnap her. And that's it. Yep. They separate, and Thronos has no idea what he's missing, except that he knows he's missing something. Yep. And then...
It's another time jump where Melanthe basically has to spend the next X amount of weeks or months convincing Sabine that she's not crazy, and yes, I actually loved him, and what have you done to me? Yeah.
And she ends up convincing Sabine to let her open a portal into Pandorum, to this place, this like 0G water pond place that was like super cool, and they had sex there, and it meant a lot to them as like a couple. And she's like, he'll come for me or whatever. And then she gets there, and he's actually already waiting there, I think, when she gets there. Yeah. Because he like kept coming back to this place because it felt important to him, but he couldn't figure out what it was.
Yeah, and it just so happened that she was there this time. Yeah. And I forget how she fixed him with magic, because she's been training her persuasion magic, because that's a thing that they advised her to do, finally. That I think it was even Nyx who was just like, hey, you have to just use it. Yeah. And then you'll get better at it.
She calls it like a muscle. Yeah. And if you don't train it, it doesn't have any strength. So.
Yeah. So that's essentially really the end, where she gives him back his memories of her, and everything is good. Yeah. And it was very satisfying. Yeah. I loved this book. I liked it even more than I think a lot of the ones where you were like, you're gonna like this one so much. Like, I liked this book better than I liked Wicked Abyss. Okay. Yeah. And that's saying something, because I love monsters, and Abyssian is probably the monstrous monster that's been in these books so far.
Yeah, well, we gotta get to that later. Yep. We are running out of time.
Oh, yeah, we are.
Yeah.
All right.
So after this comes Sweet Ruin, which is Joe and Rune. Yeah. This is the first book about the Morior. Yep. You are introduced to Josephine, who is Thaddeus's older sister. Yep. And you meet them when they're children. They don't have any memories of their youth. She wakes up in a field, and they're kids that are living on the street. And they have this librarian lady that they go in to see, Mrs. Braden.
Kindly old lady. Well, I guess she's not old. She's probably in her 30s or 40s.
Yeah. So they, like, hang out with her, and then Joe, like, lit a drug dealer's den on fire. Yeah. And she leaves Thaddeus with Mrs. Braden, and she, like, goes to go pickpockets or something.
Yeah.
And she steps outside, and the drug dealer just, like, shoots her in the head.
Yep.
And she wakes up in the morgue.
Floating above her body.
Yes.
Yep.
Because it turns out she's a phantom.
But she doesn't know that yet.
No.
At this point, she doesn't know anything about the lore.
No.
She's just like, wow, I'm a ghost now.
Yep.
And slowly discovers, hey, I can do a whole bunch of stuff now, including murder drug lords who killed me.
So she goes back to the drug lord guy's house. And
she is 12, by the way.
She slaughters them. She just destroys them. And then she drinks some of their blood, because she's also a vampire.
Yes.
She is a ghost and she is a vampire. And she's intense. I really like Jo.
I did too. Jo is my favorite. I love her so much. Like, I identify strongly with I just woke up and I am mysteriously a ghost vampire who can kill everyone who has ever hurt me. I'm gonna become a vigilante and I'm just gonna kill a whole bunch of shitty people. Like, that sounds like the best thing to do with your newly discovered immortality. So
she goes to get Thaddeus back and everybody's like, you're a ghost. You should move on because you're a ghost. You died. And, she leaves Thaddeus with Mrs. Braden.
Yep.
And then she just kind of goes off on her own.
Yep.
And she becomes like a protector of hookers.
Prostitutes.
Yeah.
Yep. Admirable.
Yeah.
I love Jo.
Shady lady. So she just becomes like the Batman for hookers, basically.
She calls herself a villain.
Yeah.
And I don't think that at any point anything that she did, beyond maybe setting fires randomly, was really villainous, but I think I also have, like, a really gray moral compass.
So, one day she meets... Why did she meet Rune? Is there a reason, or did they just bump into each other? He is having a threesome with nymphs.
Yeah,
and
they just bump into each other.
They bump into each other.
And she catches him screwing a whole bunch of nymphs.
Yeah, because that's what he does. He screws a lot of nymphs all the time.
Screws a bunch of stuff.
And,
never comes, though, because he's got poison jizz.
Yes. Rune is a half demon, half fae. Baneblood. And his bodily fluids will kill anybody who ingest them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is saliva,
He also
blood.
doesn't jizz because he's a demon, and he has a seal.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have to worry about the jizz.
Yeah.
Because he has a demon seal. But, his blood and his saliva and all that will kill people. And
so no kissing.
No kissing.
No jizzing.
No. Nope.
Rune has had a rich sex life.
No biting. Except she bites him.
Yes.
Does she do that, like, right off the bat? Like, she does it really early on where she bites him.
Yeah, I think he smells her and was like, oh, what that?
Yeah, because she's his mate, and he's a demon, so demons have mates.
Yeah.
And
they get busy really quickly. And then she bites him for some reason, or
he's
she
like,
hits him and she gets blood in his
she
face.
bites him. She just straight up bites him. He's like, don't do that, and then she just does it anyway.
Oh, yeah.
She does that a lot, where he's like, don't do this. I'm gonna do it anyway, fuck you.
So good. I love her so much. She's such a giant shit. Oh, perfect girl.
She bites him, and it turns out that she can drink the Bane blood without being killed.
And he is so into that.
He loves it.
Oh, man. He then...
Well, he's there because his task is to kill Nyx.
Yes.
And he sees Nyx walking down the street with Thaddeus. And Jo sees Thaddeus, and she assumes that he is trying to kill Thad.
Yes.
So she gets in the way, and she starts fucking him up.
Yep.
And then she starts fighting Nyx, because she's like, Nyx, you're...
I think that happens later, because at that point, he thinks that she is working with Nyx and trying to protect her.
Yeah.
And so he's like, shit, I gotta get rid of this bitch. And he grabs her and takes her to his fancy sex dungeon house.
His house in the penthouse of a sex dungeon that has see-through floors, so you can see everything that's going on below you, but you can't see up. So the top floor gets to see all of the floors below.
You know, that feels like such a waste. Like, you would get to see, like, the first 2 floors maybe, and then the rest of it would just be too indistinct. Like, Rune, I understand that you need the status of the top floor sex
nobody
penthouse.
can see you having sex, I think is the big point. You can look down and see everybody else fucking. Nobody can look up and see you fucking.
That's the biggest party I can imagine, though. Like, I would just hang out, sit on my floor,
and just watch
and
everybody
eat popcorn
have
all day.
sex.
Just make fun of anything. Like, what is that guy doing with his face?
Because this is like a non-human realm, so you don't know what kind of fucked up dudes are just down there. Like, there could be anything down there.
Several gnomes.
Several gnomes.
Oh no. I'm not imagining garden gnomes. I am imagining fantasy gnomes.
No, I went straight to garden gnomes with the big pointy hats.
Both are equally awful. Just a gnome orgy and one lady who is not Melanthe, thank God.
So he takes Joe to his house, which is like outfitted with these really cool runes that just kind of act like light switches on everything.
Yeah.
Because he has like these magic runes that just do whatever the fuck he wants, apparently. This rune turns on the lights, and this rune like pops the shelf out of the wall, and this rune turns on his shower. Like,
understandably, a guy named Rune might have something to do with runes.
Yeah.
So he apparently is leaning hard into this.
Yeah.
And they argue, I should say, but they also just kind of get down really quick. Like, I think he decides that he's going to torture her for information.
Right. This was the most ridiculous fucking thing. He's like, I'm just gonna make you... Is he trying to edge her? He tries to edge her, and then he just fails immediately.
I'm gonna sexy torture you, and surprise, surprise, she is into the sexy torture.
Yeah.
And he edges her for hours, and she's like, more...
I think the first time he's like, I'm gonna make you want to come, and then I'm not gonna let you come, and then he just immediately fails and does it anyways.
No, he does it. It's like she's actually into the edging.
Really?
Yeah.
Right.
I remember because that was my favorite part of this book, because at some point he stops and he looks up at Josephine and she has tears in her eyes and she goes, I like you so much. And I was
He gives up because he can't do it.
Like, can't do it. And she likes him so much. And I don't know why that killed me, but I was sitting there like, she likes him so much, help me. Like, I have read so much filthy and beautifully romantic stuff in these books, and that is what killed me. Ugh, no, so good. I love this book. Anyways,
I think the thing with Nyx was before that, though, because they fight with Nyx, and then he takes her to the apartment. Because I remember...
He takes her there twice.
Does he?
Yeah.
Because all I remember is, like, I really like the scene with Nyx, where, like, Josephine goes to try to fight Nyx, and Nyx just kicks the shit out of her.
Yeah.
Really hard. And then Rune is, like, standing on an apartment building across the street, and he's shooting arrows at Nyx, and, like, lightning is just striking down wherever the arrows are going, and, like, protecting Nyx from these impossible-to-miss arrows, which I thought was so badass and super cool.
It was. The entire scene was really awesome, but I think that happened afterwards.
Okay.
Because he leaves after that and leaves her alone.
No, Doesn't she tackle him through the apartment building, and then they fall through the floors over and over and over again and into the basement?
Didn't that happen after, though? I wasn't sure if that was the first incident or not. It could have been, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. The apartment building...
Like, I just remember, they fell through a bunch of apartment buildings, and people saw them, and I remember, like, they fall past people who are fucking at some point, and they're in the basement, and she just starts kicking the shit out of him because she thinks he was shooting at Thaddeus.
Okay, yeah, right. That sounds right, but I don't think she fights Nyx until later.
Okay.
Because at that point, though, she goes to Nyx and she's like, what the hell?
Okay.
What the hell, man?
And then Nyx kicks the shit out of her. There's two separate incidences that I've smashed together in my mind, but
but they were different.
Yeah.
And he finds Nyx beating the shit out of her and is trying to save her.
Right, yeah.
And that's why he's shooting at Nyx, because, I mean, yes, he needs to kill her because Mordor said so.
And then he takes her away.
Yeah.
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 Where do they go from there? Josephine is like, if you're killing Nyx, I want to be there with you. And Rune is Rune is like, no, you're gonna stay here. And then Josephine is like, if you don't take, I swear to the lore, if you don't take me with you when you kill Nyx, I will never bite you again.
Yes, and she just keeps making vows to the Lord for the stupidest stuff. And
as a reminder, if you make a vow to the lore as an immortal, you cannot break that lore, or the gods will like punish you. You will suffer forever for it. And Josephine just keeps making all of these vows, like for everything.
And every time he's like, "What are you doing?"
For just the littlest shit. She's like, "Do this. I vow to the Lord. If you don't do this." And Rune is like, "Stop it!
This is a big deal." She's so good.
So they end up going on like a cross-country adventure. It turns into a road trip. And they get Deshizer to take them to China. I really like Deshizer. He is a demon pirate.
Oh, let the pirate demon
yeah,
fuck.
He needs a book. I really like him. I've heard people say that maybe he and Cosmina.
Oh, okay.
That would be really good.
That would be honestly the best.
Yeah.
I 100% yes. Please give me Dirty Pirate. And
he's a really nice pirate, man.
I shouldn't call him a dirty pirate. He is a lovely, charming pirate.
Yeah. And he takes them to China, and they climb this mountain in China, and then they get a note at the top of the mountain to be like, go over here. And then they follow the note, and then they're in Italy. And then they're in this place and that place. Actually, I think they end in Italy.
And crazy falling in love.
Yeah, the whole time. It's like a road trip romance. Yeah.
Thanks, Nyx. You can plan my next getaway anytime.
So, I forget how this ends.
It ends with Joe freaking out because she thinks that Nyx is holding Thaddeus, and this entire time she hasn't told Rune that Thaddeus is her brother, and he thinks that she's in love with him.
Yes.
So she goes. Oh.
No, they need to break through the Wraith portal, the Wraith cage around the Valhalla. Yep. And
Josephine is just going wild.
Not yet. They need a phoenix feather to break the wall around Valhalla. And Rune is like, Rune is like, I'll get this phoenix feather. I know a nymph who has it. I just gotta go have sex with her. And Josephine is like, what the fuck? Yeah, because they had just had sex, and she said, "I'm only gonna sleep with you if you can make this a monogamous relationship."
Yeah, and that was a big deal for him.
It was a huge deal, and like the next day, Rune is like, "Okay, I'm gonna go sleep with this nymph because I need to get that feather from her." And Joe's like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
And because it has to do with the vow to the Lord that she made, where he has to keep her with him when he is trying to actively kill Nyx, and the phoenix feather is part of that.
He has to take her with her to the nymph house
and meet. Well, not necessarily.
She waits.
She meets.
He's like, wait outside while I go fuck this nymph. I'll be right back. And this moment for me was like, it dropped my rating from like a 4.5 to a 3-star rating. Oof. I just could not handle Rune. Like, infidelity is a huge no for me. And Rune was like, okay, I'm gonna go sleep with somebody else now because I have to go get a feather, even though I just convinced you to sleep with me on the promise that we'd be monogamous.
But it wasn't because of that. He wasn't going because he wanted to have sex with the
It doesn't matter.
He was going because he had to.
It doesn't matter. He slept with her the day before. He convinced her to sleep with him. He said, yes, I'll give you what you want. And he knew what she wanted was a monogamous relationship where he was not allowed to sleep with anybody else. The next day, he is like, okay, I gotta go get this feather. I gotta go sleep with this nymph.
The timing was super bad. And I feel like that's information that he should have given her beforehand.
Yeah, he should not have slept with her and said, yes, I'll give you what you want, if he was gonna immediately go do what she didn't want.
But he was doing it for her.
It doesn't matter.
And she knew it was for her. So that's the thing, though. It's like, I get it. But at the same time, I'm like, can you two actually talk? Like,
yeah, that for me took Rune from being an annoying hero to just being a shit stain hero, and he did not redeem himself after that. There was not enough groveling.
There wasn't enough groveling.
No.
I agree with that. But at the same time, it didn't happen.
It didn't happen, but he was gonna do it. And then he's about to fuck this nymph, and then he has the realization, like, oh,
I'm gonna break her heart forever.
I'm gonna break her heart. Sex means something to her. I'm gonna break her heart if I do this. I can't sleep with this nymph. I'm gonna threaten this nymph's life instead, and she's gonna give me this fucking feather, and I'm gonna get kicked out of all the nymph houses in the world. I'm not gonna sleep with her.
I mean, that was super effective, though.
It worked, but he could have just fucking did that from the start.
He could have.
Yes.
I don't know why he didn't think of it to begin with. Rune, solving problems with your dick, boy. Like, please stop.
Yeah. So, he goes out and Joe is left. Joe is left to go to Valhall to get Thaddeus.
Yes.
And I really like this scene too, because they show up, a couple of the Moriors show up and are watching as Joe is like telekinetically whipping cars at this barrier.
God. Their cars!
And freaking the fuck out. And it was so cool and I loved it.
It was
and
intense.
Joe is just like going Super Saiyan on this thing. And they end up... Who breaks the barrier? Does Joe break the barrier, or does the arrow break the barrier?
I thought the arrow broke the barrier.
Because everybody comes out of Valhall, and like it's a huge group scene where you got like Lothair, and you got the werewolves, and you got all the Valkyrie, and I remember Lothair being there, and I was like, this is adorable. Yeah, she got the team together, and everybody's standing out front when the barrier breaks, and the wraiths like. Because they shoot in all different directions. Like, the wraiths just go flying off. And Thaddeus comes out and he has, like, a face-off with Joe.
Yes,
and
because he doesn't recognize her.
No, because he thought she was dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the wraiths wake up, and they go up to Nyx, and they just hand over the huge braid of hair that they've been making, which I fucking laughed so hard.
I know!
Because Nyx has been setting this whole thing up from the very beginning to get that braid back.
The whole book is just Nyx trying to get the fucking wraith braid so that the Valkyries won't be under their control.
Yeah.
Like, that's the entire book.
The wraith have been surrounding Valkyrie Hall, and every time somebody crosses the barrier, they give over a lock of hair. And when the wraiths have enough hair, they have a full braid, they can command the Valkyries to do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah.
And the last couple books have been hinting that the braid is almost done.
Yep.
In Dark Skye, there's a lock of hair that gets passed on to Melanthe.
Yep.
And Nyx is like, this is the final braid that they need. This is what's going to give the wraiths control of the Valkyrie. So you spend, like, the last 2 books going, where the fuck did that braid go? Because Nereus takes it.
Yep.
And you're like, where'd the braid go? Who has the braid? And then in this book, it's all thrown out the window, which I thought was just it was a really good sneaky build-up.
It was.
Because you were thinking about it, but it wasn't mentioned enough for you to be like, oh, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, it was perfect.
No, good job, Casey, on that.
It was amazing. I loved it so much, because the whole book is clearly just Nyx, like, we're gonna get the braid back and start from 1.
Some stuff's gotta happen, so...
No,
it was
so good.
And it was just the whole ending of this book was really intense.
Yeah.
And I loved it too.
Yeah.
Like this one, I think right now, if you were to ask me what my favorite Immortals After Dark book
Sweet Ruin.
Sweet Ruin is it.
I think it's Sarah McLean's favorite book too.
Yeah.
From the Fated Mates podcast. Yeah.
Sarah McLean. Good to
It's one of them.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's Sarah McLean.
It's definitely my top 3.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And, we'll have to talk about that another time, because we have been talking a whole bunch.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
We had a lot to say about these, so... Yeah. 2 more left.
Yeah,
next
we're almost
episode.
done.
Yeah, I'm kind of sad that I'm not going to have any more to go to, but I'm also kind of glad that my reading time is no longer going to be monopolized.
You still haven't read the first one.
I haven't read the first one. Or the novella.
I haven't read the novellas either, but I've heard they're all very give and take. Like, you really don't need to.
No, but I mean, I should and want to.
Except one of the novellas, the main character has the exact same name as me.
Yep.
And it's weird.
I think we should read that at some point anyway, because the main character named Daniela is too good. If there was a main character named Arlene, I would flip.
Daniela the Ice Maiden.
Oh,
yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
But, we'll do that another time.
Yep.
Where can they find us?
They can find us on Facebook, Literary AF. We are on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, and Podbean, Literary AF. I'm on Twitter, LiteraryAFPod.
I'm on Twitter as CatFaceGargoyle.
And you can email the podcast at literaryafpod@gmail.com. Cool. That's it.
Yeah. Next week is the last two books.
Next week we're going to be doing Shadows, Seduction, and Wicked Abyss. And then Sheldon should be done David Copperfield by then.
Okay.
So after that we're going to do David Copperfield. I might do Side Changeling. And then we have a triple threat special that we are going to keep secret for now. But it's coming up.
Cool.